Hello, friends. In this video, we want to share the stories of people who have recently left this world. Their lives and legacies deserve to be remembered, and we hope you will discover something meaningful about them today. Before we begin, please subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. Now, let's get started. Joseph Dubé died on September 5, 2025, leaving behind a life story that embodied resilience, talent, and the spirit of South African sport. He was celebrated as a pioneering weightlifter, remembered for his powerful presence on the international stage and for being one of the athletes who carried the pride of his country into the arena during an era of both athletic challenge and social transformation. His achievements were not only medals and competitions, but also the inspiration he offered to younger generations who saw in him proof that determination could overcome adversity. Born in 1944 in Durban, South Africa, Joseph Dubé grew up in a modest household where physical labor and discipline were part of daily life. From a young age, he was drawn to physical activity, fascinated by strength and endurance. While his peers gravitated toward more common sports, Dubé found himself captivated by the art of weightlifting, the precision, the technique, and the ability to push the human body to its absolute limit. His education was shaped both in school and outside of it, where the grit of everyday life formed a toughness of spirit that became the foundation of his athletic journey. As a teenager, he trained with whatever equipment he could find, often improvising weights and routines. These early steps were difficult, but they sharpened his commitment and fueled his desire to test himself against the best. With guidance from local coaches who recognized his raw potential, Dubé began to refine his technique and enter local competitions. By the time he reached adulthood, his talent was undeniable, and he had risen to represent South Africa on the international weightlifting stage. Life after competition was not without its challenges. Dubé worked to balance the recognition of his athletic successes with the quieter responsibilities of life, family, and community. He remained connected to the sport he loved, often attending events and speaking about the discipline and perseverance required to succeed. His voice was steady, filled with the authority of experience, and he was regarded as an elder statesman of weightlifting in South Africa. In his final days, Joseph Dubé was surrounded by the respect of both his peers and the younger athletes who looked to him as a role model. His death marked the end of a remarkable journey, but not the end of his influence into the annals of international sport. With his passing, we mourn the loss of a champion, a mentor, and a symbol of determination. May he be remembered not only for his feats of strength, but also for the strength of his heart and the legacy of inspiration he leaves behind.
Stefano Benni died on September 9, 2025, in Bologna, his beloved hometown, at the age of 78 after a prolonged illness. Benni was celebrated for his vibrant satire and imaginative storytelling that earned him the reputation of being Italy's preeminent master of tragicomic fantasy. With over 2.5 million books sold in his homeland and translations into more than 20 languages, he left a mark both commercially and culturally. His debut, Bar Sport, 1976, forged an enduring cultural archetype of the provincial Italian bar, a quirky stage where grotesque characters paraded their whims and eccentricities. He followed with a series of critically acclaimed works, Terra, Elianto, La Compagnia dei Celestini, Baul, Comici Spaventati Guerrieri, Spiriti, Saltatempo, and Margarita Dolcevita, each bursting with neologisms, wordplay, and sharp societal insight. Born on August 12, 1947, in Bologna, Benny grew up in a city that shaped his literary sensibility. He began writing for comic magazines like Il Mago, publishing part of Bar Sport in serial form, and later contributed to satirical publications such as Cuore, Tango, and mainstream outlets like L'Espresso, Panorama, La Repubblica, and Il Manifesto. He also collaborated with Beppe Grillo in television, penning sketches that stirred political controversy and showcased his fearless sense of humor. In the mid-1980s and 1990s, Benny branched out into film. He co-wrote Topo Galileo, 1887, and co-directed Musica per vecchi animali, which was adapted from his novel Comici spaventati guerrieri and featured icons like Dario Fo and Paolo Rossi. Alongside the jazz pianist Umberto Petrin, he explored another creative medium with Misterioso, Viaggio nel silenzio di Thelonious Monk. The depth and diversity of his work reflected a restless imagination and deep empathy for the absurdities of society. Stefano Benni's imagination thrived on paradox. He crafted whimsical worlds populated by fantastical beings, yet his satire cut deeply into the reality of contemporary life, media manipulation, political absurdity, and consumer culture. Critics and readers admired how his playful language masked a profound and sometimes melancholy worldview. For decades, he inspired younger writers and readers, all enamored with his blend of humor, heart, and invention. In his final days, frail and largely withdrawn from public life, Benny faced the loss of speech, a cruel irony for a man whose art depended on words. Yet his spirit remained intact, playful, incisive, and profoundly humane. We mourn not merely the passing of an Italian literary giant, but the silence of a voice that made us laugh, reflect, and recognize ourselves in a world filled with absurdity. May his words continue to dance across pages and minds, and may his imagination live forever among us.
Robert K. Corbin died on September 9, 2025, closing the final chapter of a life that deeply shaped the political and legal landscape of Arizona and left a lasting imprint on American public life. He was most widely known for his role as Arizona's Attorney General, a position he held longer than anyone else in the state's history, from 1979 to 1991. Through those 12 years, Corbin became a symbol of integrity, prosecutorial strength, and an unyielding defender of justice. Later, as president of the National Rifle Association in the early 1990s, he further underscored his devotion to issues of rights and responsibilities that extended beyond state borders. Born on November 17, 1928, in the small town of Worthington, Indiana, Robert Keith Corbin grew up in a post-Depression America where values of hard work and duty were etched into daily life. His childhood was modest, shaped by family and community bonds, but also by an awareness of the larger world beyond his town. After graduating high school, he joined the U.S. Navy in 1946, where the discipline of military service instilled in him an enduring sense of order and accountability. Following his service, he pursued higher education at Indiana University Bloomington, where he earned his law degree. This combination of small-town roots, military discipline, and academic rigor forged the man who would step into Arizona's complex political stage. Corbin began his career in law as a deputy county attorney in Maricopa County in 1958. It was a turbulent period for Arizona, with the rapid growth of Phoenix bringing both opportunity and challenges. By 1964, he had risen to the position of county attorney, where he proved himself in the crucible of real-world cases, balancing public safety with fairness. His years as an attorney were marked by a directness that earned him respect among colleagues and adversaries alike. He would later join the Maricopa County Board of Supervisors in 1972, gaining an insider's understanding of local governance and sharpening the skills that prepared him for state office. In 1978, Robert Corbin was elected Attorney General of Arizona, assuming office the following year. His tenure was defined by high-profile cases that tested both his legal acumen and moral compass. He oversaw the prosecution of Governor Evan Mecham on campaign finance violations and took on former Congressman Sam Steiger in a notorious attempted extortion case. These trials demonstrated not only his courage in confronting powerful figures, but also his belief that the law should stand above politics. He was widely regarded as a straight shooter, a man who would not bend his principles for convenience or favor. His career was not without its trials. As Attorney General, he navigated political storms and criticism, yet he always emerged with his reputation for honesty intact. His leadership left behind a legal framework that emphasized accountability at every level of government. After retiring from his role as Attorney General in 1991, he took his principles onto the national stage, becoming president of the National Rifle Association in 1992. Though his tenure there was brief, it reflected his continued commitment to causes he believed were fundamental to public life. In his later years, Robert Corbin remained an admired figure in Arizona, remembered not just for his professional achievements, but for the personal qualities that defined him: discipline, fairness, and quiet resilience. His passing at the age of 96 brought a wave of reflection across the state and beyond. Those who worked alongside him spoke of his steadiness, his ability to navigate pressure without losing sight of justice, and his quiet but firm leadership style. As we remember Robert K. Corbin, we mourn not only the loss of a man, but of a voice that once stood unwavering against corruption, injustice, and compromise of principle. May he be remembered with gratitude and respect, and may his legacy continue to inspire those who step into the demanding yet noble path of public service.
Clint Eastwood was born on May 31, 1930, and over the course of his long life, he became one of the most influential figures in American cinema. His greatest achievement lies in the dual legacy he carved for himself. First, as a rugged and charismatic actor who embodied a uniquely American sense of resilience and independence, and later as an accomplished director who redefined storytelling in Hollywood. Few individuals in the history of film have balanced both roles with such mastery, and Eastwood's career stands as a testament to creative evolution, perseverance, and artistic authority. He was born in San Francisco, California, during the early years of the Great Depression. His family moved frequently in search of work, instilling in him an adaptability and toughness that would later define his screen persona. Growing up in working-class neighborhoods, Eastwood was known as a quiet, observant boy who enjoyed outdoor activities and developed an early appreciation for physical strength and independence. Eastwood attended Oakland Technical High School, although his path through education was unconventional. Teachers noted his potential, but he was never a model student. His energy was drawn more to hands-on pursuits and practical skills. After high school, he worked a series of jobs that ranged from lifeguard to steelworker, jobs that gave him a first-hand understanding of resilience and labor, themes that would later surface in his films. Eventually, he studied acting more seriously, drawn to the possibilities of performance and expression, even while uncertainty about the future remained. His early career began modestly, with bit parts and auditions that often led nowhere. He took small roles in low-budget films and found himself navigating the difficulties of Hollywood's competitive environment. Yet his tall frame, striking looks, and understated manner caught the attention of casting agents. Eastwood's persistence led him to his first significant break with the television series Rawhide in the late 1950s, where he played Rowdy Yates. The show introduced him to a wide audience and gave him the opportunity to refine his craft, but more importantly, it set the stage for his later transformation into an international film icon. Clint Eastwood's career truly began to ascend in the 1960s, when he became a cultural icon through his collaboration with Italian director Sergio Leone. Cast as the enigmatic Man with No Name in A Fistful of Dollars, 1964, For a Few Dollars More, 1965, and The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, 1966, Eastwood embodied a new kind of Western hero, laconic, morally ambiguous, yet irresistibly charismatic. These films not only redefined the Western genre, but also transformed Eastwood into an international star. By the late 1960s and early 1970s, Eastwood's fame gave him financial independence, and he began living a lifestyle that reflected both success and restraint. Unlike some Hollywood contemporaries, he avoided constant flamboyance, yet he invested wisely in real estate, purchased ranch properties, and developed a lifelong love for Carmel by the Sea, California, where he would eventually serve as mayor decades later. His homes mirrored his personality, comfortable, open, and close to nature, rather than excessive. Cars, however, fascinated him, and he often drove luxury models that reflected the taste of his era. During his 30s and 40s, Eastwood was deeply immersed in work, but also carved out time for leisure. He was an avid golfer and relished the privacy of outdoor sports. His ranch became both a retreat and a working environment, where he could escape the demands of Hollywood and embrace the physical, grounded lifestyle that had always appealed to him. Friends often recalled his discipline. He rose early, kept a strict routine, and preferred moments of quiet reflection to the typical party circuits of Los Angeles. The 1970s marked a new chapter as he created the iconic character Harry Callahan in Dirty Harry, 1971. The role amplified his status, cementing him as a figure who represented both rugged justice and controversy. Success brought him immense wealth, and he became one of Hollywood's most bankable stars. By the time he reached his 50s, he had already transitioned into directing, shaping projects with a vision that fused economy, realism, and emotional gravity. Off-screen, Eastwood's life was a blend of discipline and indulgence. He enjoyed good food, fine wine, and quiet evenings with music, particularly jazz, a genre he loved passionately and later supported as a director and composer. His relationships often attracted public attention, yet his private side remained centered on his children, his work, and his land. Unlike many stars who lost themselves in excess, Eastwood balanced the allure of wealth with an enduring attachment to simpler roots. By the time he was approaching 60, Eastwood had reached a unique plateau. He was not only a star of global renown, but also an emerging auteur, respected for his ability to reinvent himself. His choices reflected confidence and maturity. He had lived through the temptations of fame, made his mark with defining roles, built a secure financial foundation, and positioned himself to shape his artistic legacy on his own terms.
In his later years, Clint Eastwood's life unfolded as a profound mixture of resilience, reflection, and vulnerability. Age, though it had long seemed powerless against his towering presence, eventually began to impose its rhythm. He struggled with recurring ailments. His back, worn from decades of performing his own stunts and carrying the physical demands of rugged roles, often ached with relentless persistence. There were murmurs of heart strain, fatigue that lingered longer than before, and a general slowing of the body that once moved with deliberate, panther-like grace. Yet, even as his health faltered, his sharp gaze and indomitable will continued to define him, making him a figure who could never be entirely subdued by time. Family and personal life carried their own shades of triumph and sorrow. Eastwood was a father to many children, and his later years were shaped by a yearning to mend and strengthen those ties, making up for the absences of his younger, restless days. He spent more evenings with family, inviting warmth into his once solitary ranch, where the clatter of dishes at dinner and the laughter of grandchildren replaced the echo of silence. But these joys were balanced by piercing losses. Colleagues and friends who had shared his journey, actors, musicians, and directors who had stood beside him in Hollywood's golden years, passed away one by one, leaving him with the heavy quiet of remembrance. Within his own family, death and estrangement carved wounds that even his stoic composure could not mask. Each absence, whether of a friend or loved one, etched deeper lines into his expression, softening the granite into something more reflective, almost mournful. Despite these shadows, his discipline never abandoned him. He rose early, worked steadily, and even as illness pressed upon him, he directed and shaped projects with precision. His ranch became both a sanctuary and a mirror of his state of mind. Evenings spent with a book by the fireplace, mornings walking through dew-covered grass, afternoons when jazz filled the rooms of his house like whispers from another era. Visitors often remarked on how his silence spoke louder than words, how his measured gestures carried both dignity and fatigue, as though each movement held the sum of his years. He was no longer the young drifter with a squinting stare, nor the maverick filmmaker pushing against Hollywood's tides. He had become something larger, an embodiment of persistence, a reminder of what it meant to endure. His films remained alive in the collective memory, each one a fragment of his identity, and through them, audiences revisited not only characters but also the essence of the man himself. As age advanced, Clint Eastwood often appeared as though standing at the edge of memory, half in the present and half in the past. He bore illness and grief with the same calm fortitude that had once made him a cinematic legend. And though his body slowed, his spirit, rooted in discipline, independence, and a refusal to surrender, remained unbroken. To those around him, he was a monument, not of stone or bronze, but of endurance, shaped by both triumph and loss, standing tall in the twilight of his life, etched against the horizon like a figure from one of his own films.